Hi everybody, Sherilyn Rose here. Got a bold and bright birthday card that resulted out of a workshop. I've just got one problem with it though. This was inspired by Aditi's Dramatic Elegance workshop. I liked the colors that she was using. Because of that, I pulled out some ruby red cardstock. Now, I know I don't usually use colored cardstock, but I thought I would be reinforcing it in this case, so I went for it. I have cut it in half. I've scored it down the middle. I'm using my bone folder to flatten it out, and I'll flip it over and I'll get the other side too so that I've got a good crease in there. Now, what was left over on the other panel, I cut that in half, so I've got an A2 panel left. I'm sticking that down on my sticky mat, and I'm grabbing out my trasher Versamark. I've got two. One is for when I'm doing my messy stuff, which is usually the case, and the other one is for when I'm doing like white die cuts. But what I did was I put the stencils over top, I put the Versamark down, and that powder that I'm using, that's some of my duochrome powder. I actually use that for my nails as well too. I was putting it on, it was sticking to the Versamark really well, and I used a red gradient and a green gradient and a gold gradient. I'm putting some around the edges of the flourish and then the others along the lines. What I did there was I went back over top of everything that I had done with Versamark again. That's not to seal it in. What I was doing was I was getting it ready so that I could put some clear embossing powder down on it. As you can see here, I'm heat embossing. So I'm sealing that powder in because normally with nail polish, you would seal it in with a clear coat, but we don't have that. So we sealed it with clear embossing powder. Grab your misters out, give it a little spritz of water across the back of the panel. Helps when you're running it through those embossing folders. We're still using the Elegant Flourish. We've got it embossed. It's back down on the sticky mat. So Aditi's card had a really dark background, a black background that she had set clear embossing powder over. I'm deepening mine up with 3 different shades of the red tones of the fresh dye ink. And then I'm going to come back in over the top right-hand corner with the jet black ink. It's going to cause that drama through the background. Put a dash of water in my hand. I am flicking it down onto that panel everywhere, and I'm letting it activate for a few seconds, and then I go in with my paper towel and I lift it up. Now, I also put anti-static powder over this at this stage in the game because I don't want the embossing powder to stick onto the wet ink or the wet splotches. Once it's done, used Versamark, and then we poured the clear embossing powder back over top again, and you can see that because we had used the anti-static powder that it only stuck in the spots we wanted. So we're sealing that in, the ink layers and the water splotches, and that's going to mimic what Aditi had happening in her background with the glazing over top of a darker background. Okay, grabbing out Casual Bouquet stamp, and this isn't for the inside of the card. I wanted some flowers for the front. I didn't have the stamp that Aditi was using, so use this one instead. And anti-static powder, Versamark, and I'm using the rose gold embossing powder. We're going to let it shake all over that. Try pouring it back in the bottle as much as possible. The other I'll funnel back in with my paper. And I am heat setting it with my heat gun. If you've got any little parts that are still kind of stuck outside of where your lines are, just take a little brush and brush them off. Okay, this set has a die set with it. We've got those cut out. There's only 2 that will also emboss those, so I've got them marked which ones are the ones that will both die cut and emboss. And so those are the ones that I had for this particular card. I've set them down, and I've grabbed out all of the stencil layers for this. We are going through with different analogous tones. We are using the oranges first into the reds, and then we will come back in with some of the yellow layers over the leaves. Did each layer in turn. I did a slight ombre that I had the deeper colors towards the inside of each of those petals. And this set, it also has little lines across those flowers. And you can see up at the top, that's kind of my mock one on how I was going to lay those flowers down. I actually have that white and black set. It just stays in the folder so that I can do my layout for whenever I'm doing my next cards. I'm still continuing on. You can see I really wanted the flowers to be quite dark, so I brought in some razzleberry around them to really deepen them up. I think you can tell this video was created, edited, and narrated entirely by a real person. No AI. Please subscribe to help support my channel and the time I've been putting into it. I'm using a paper towel to wipe off any ink that might be sitting over top of that embossed rose gold. Then I am fussy cutting it out because the die set was really nice, but when I held it against the card, I didn't like the white around the outside compared to the red in the background. And so I took it closer to the line, and then I'm going back in with a gold metallic marker and I'm going around the outer edge so that it carries on the rose gold line that is there. All right, since I had those metallic markers out, I thought, I could do a little Zentangling in here. And there was like a maroony one and a gold one and a bronze one. And so I just started drawing lines down on the bottom left-hand corner of this. And I did some dots and some swirls. And I was a bit frustrated with it because they were quite thick. And you can see that's how I'm progressing through with my card there. So I'm laying it out, trying to decide where I'm going to put down all these die cuts that I've stenciled and colored and got them ready. Now that I've got my layout done, I'm going to start assembling the card and laying these down into spot. Because this is embossed and because it has that embossing powder glaze over top of the duochrome powders and the other clear spots, I wanted to make certain it was going to stick well. So on each of the flowers, I put a little bit of the ultra sticky tape on the back and a little bit of wiggle room with some glue, and I tucked them in. Now, I got out the jewel drops, strawberry coulis, because you guys know I love my jewel drops, and my Nouveau mousses and the pearl drops and other stuff like that. And I put it over top of the berries that were from that casual bouquet. We need a sentiment. We're using the Birthday Wish die cut. I used some old project paper that I had that was in greens and yellow tones. And I'm using the Enchanted Gold pigment ink for both the die cut, the sentiment, and also for the leaves, because embossing powder will stick to that pigment ink. The gold, because it goes in certain spots when you're dabbing it down, because it's got like a sponge instead of the felt pad. It's kind of modelly, right? And so you can see that I had each of them upside down and used my reverse tweezers to push it into it, embossed it again with the clear embossing powder. That's where I was just setting those additional ones into spot because I just thought it needed something else, a little variation from what we had for this stenciling. We're putting the happy birthday down on some darker red cardstock for its shadow layer. I'm going to set that up more towards the empty space up towards the top so that it doesn't have too much busyness around it. And you can see that swirl of that elegant flourish also wraps around it, so it brings the focus back onto it. Now for the inside of the card. Again, Casual Bouquet stamp. We're starting out with the flower, and I've used some yellow, and I'm just tapping some red and some orange tones just over parts of the flower. I want this to be very light. Got it down, and now we're using a couple of the sentiments. Of course, this is a birthday card, so I had to bring that in. I did it with a red ink first, and then I'm coming back over with one of the yellow just on the lovely, and that's going to cause a halo effect over top of the ink. And then, because I know that I needed to use this panel to reinforce on the inside, I thought I would mimic the dots that are on the front by using that mix and match frame set and running it through. And then it was really fun too, because you get to poke all those little holes out with your nail, right? Little bit of glue on the back, just wiping it so it doesn't bubble through those holes. We're going to set it down on the card. We're going to put that custom stamp on the back. I think I threw a couple of ombre drops on there from Pink Fresh as well. And that's the finished card. So when you tilt it, you see all the duochrome because the colors shift back from like red to gold to green. And then you catch the shimmer of the metallics on the other side. And then the stenciled flowers with the rose gold. Oh, it's really shiny and it's really bold. The only problem I have with this card is I forgot to get the person's address to send it to. So I feel like a goof now because it's now a belated birthday card. But everybody, you go be that change you want to see in the world. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.